So if we're talking about life or death here, my in-laws have a major problem with motorcycles because of like risk assessment. If you're if 79 and 100,000 people riding a motorcycle get in an accident, that's too much risk for them. But alternatively, I think it's like 17 out of 100,000 drivers get in an accident. So if we're talking about like percentages,
a 5% increase almost.
It's
5
times the amount, but out of 100,000, it's still really low.
Yeah.
But if you ask anyone that rides, it's not if, it's when.
Right.
And you aren't necessarily calling the police every time you get in an accident. So those are only reported accidents.
Yeah.
Right. So that's but why did you own a motorcycle or something?
Yeah, I have a motorcycle.
You have a motorcycle?
Yes.
You have a motorcycle?
I have a motorcycle.
I haven't seen a motorcycle in your garage.
I've been to your house a lot.
It's
I've never
not in
seen a
Livonia.
motorcycle.
It's on the other side of the state.
I was hoping you had a bunker or something.
No, that'd be amazing.
And just like shout from the backyard.
So the woods behind his house.
It's
like
in the
there's
shed back there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Wait, so why is it in Grand Rapids?
It needed repairs, and my buddy volunteered to fix it for me. And it's not a family favorite, let's say that. And so it just hasn't made its way back home after it was repaired.
What kind of bike is it?
It's a Vulcan.
Okay.
So are you saying your wife won't let you have it? Is that?
I'm saying I'm respecting my wife by not bringing it back.
He's not allowed to have it.
He's not allowed to have one. It's true. Yeah. I've never ridden. I've never even been on a motorcycle.
It's very freeing.
I mean, I've been on a bicycle.
Yeah. It's
I've gone downhill like a good 40 kilometers an hour on a bike. Like that's
it's
fun.
like that, but faster.
Yeah, faster.
With power
you're
in your
Canadian
hands.
until you say things like kilometers.
Kilometers.
Yeah. Well, speed on a bike. That's how you got to do it. You got to do it like all the
It makes
bikes
it look like you're going faster
yeah,
than you really are.
100%. 40 is a lot faster than
40.
saying 25.
Right.
25 miles an hour. You're like, okay, cool. So I can go that fast in a subdivision in my car. So it's not that fast.
Yeah, I had one too many experiences with a bike that I was like, you know what? I would love to have a bike, but bike's not for me.
You crashed one, didn't you?
I wrecked a bike. Yep.
Nice.
I wrecked a good friend of mine's bike, and Harley Sportster 1200, I believe, and he hadn't had it that long. And
Are you still friends?
Yeah, we're still friends.
Okay. All right. So it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, he's one of my best friends.
Or he's a good
and
friend.
you paid him back fully, right?
Yeah, so I thought. He told me how much it was to fix it by, a connection we had, and then come to find out it was like 3 times more than what he actually told me. So he was being a good friend.
Oh, nice.
Until he told me years later to make me feel bad. So
all right, I passed the statute of limitations on yeah. Well, okay. Welcome to CockTalk, the podcast.
Yep.
Here we are. Episode 6. Episode 6.
6.
Tyler's back. You're fully healed?
Well, let's say I'm
Ish.
mostly healed.
Well, you don't
I'll have
sound
some
like
cough.
you're living inside of like a bubble with like a small hole talking out of it.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
Yeah.
The drainage out of the face is gone.
That's
which
good.
is a big part of it.
That's good.
The cough still comes and goes, but I've been downing.
Just cough right into the mic, though. Keep it in
I've been
there.
downing cough medicine all day to try to mitigate that.
We'll be sure to sanitize your mic afterwards, just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the show, we finally were able to, procure Kate Keith, Joel's wife here from Kate's Flower Farm. She will be on the show, and she chose the drink of the day. What's the drink called?
So it's one that she's kind of like loosely done herself. So she calls it a 3-2-1 because it's 3 ounces of citron vodka, 2 ounces of orange liqueur, and then 1 ounce. Or no, I'm sorry, 2 ounces of cranberry juice, and then 1 ounce of orange liqueur. So to me, whenever she gets out of 3-2-1, it's a countdown to a good time.
That's right. That's right.
Sounds like a headache without some
Sounds
water,
like a great podcast episode too. So she'll be on the show on our second segment, and we'll have the drinks then. Yep. We'll have her. I feel like you probably didn't do the ingredients right. You probably screwed something.
Didn't.
She can tell us.
Let
she
her talk
can tell
about
us.
it.
Yeah, that's fair. So Tyler, tell us about what we're diving into.
Yeah, I think today's main topic is going to be about prep, whether it be your land, your business, maybe both. So like Mark said, we've got Kate coming on who has started a flower business in her backyard. That this year she's doubled. How much bigger is it?
Yeah, we're almost doubling the square footage of the garden out back. So
yeah, great. So we're gonna kind of break down the different steps. I think our first segment here is gonna be about just prepping, and making sure that it's for you. Can you do it? And the logistics behind it.
How do you do it?
Yeah,
I think anybody can do it. Even if you have like a little balcony off of a condo, you can do it.
Yeah, I think anywhere you can grow vegetables and
figure
flowers.
out how to do it. Yeah.
I think when I've had discussions with Joel, it's been how do you battle maybe the city or the state in order to do it. So if we're talking about ducks or chickens, Joel used to live in my city, and you had chickens. Let's hear about what happened there.
Yeah, so we had just started with gardening in general, Kate and I, and then she started with some flower stuff, and I was wanting to do vegetables. We had a couple raised beds, nothing big. It was like 8-foot raised beds. We had a few of them. We were like, man, I really want to get some chickens. Like fresh eggs sounds amazing just for us. So I think we bought 4 chickens, I believe, and we got this little like rabbit run off of Amazon for like $150. And with most hens, right around 20 weeks or so, depending on the breed. 18 to 20 weeks is when they start laying. But about 16 weeks in, when they're almost full grown, we had a neighbor, the people behind us, report us to the city for having chickens, and they made us get rid of our chickens. Yeah. So we found someone who actually had like free range, had a bunch of land and stuff, and they came and they took the chickens from us. But it was
happily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody comes and says,
chickens.
hey, I want full grown hens.
Yeah.
A lady drove up my driveway the other day and said, hey, we're moving. We live down the road, and I have a bunch of chickens, but our new place, I'm not allowed to have roosters. And I have one rooster. It was like an accident. You get, even if you get, this is something good to know for chickens. Even if you buy sexed chickens, which means you want all hens, it's only a 90% chance that you get all hens.
Yep.
Like out of 10, there's a chance you're going to get one rooster in there, which you'll have to do something with. Usually you just cull it, but I mean, this lady kept it around, said it was really nice. She's like, would you like to have my rooster? I was like, no. I was like, I'm sorry. Like if it's, you might just have to turn it into a stew because turn it into a soup or something because you don't want it. You only want a couple. Yeah. Like I have 35 hens, so you only need 2, maybe 3. I have 3 because one of them's like a special needs rooster. He like tries to come up to the hens. He has like a weird leg. He hops everywhere. We call him Harold, and he tries to go and mount some hens, and they just like peck the shit out of him. So he's like he is the beta male of the group.
He's the soy boy.
He's the soy boy. But my daughter loves him, so like it's one of those like you keep something around because it's like almost like a mascot a little bit. Like he's a really cool looking one. He's one of the Easter eggers.
Oh, okay.
And he looks completely different than every other chicken. So it's like,
It sounds like the hens are trying to keep the bloodline clean.
100%. They're like, you got a disability. We don't want you.
I don't.
God, that's good.
Oh my goodness.
They're chickens. They're not people.
Right. Exactly.
So how many years ago was this that you tried in your city and were reported?
This was probably about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
And it was tough because my daughter. So it had been. Actually, it probably been almost 5 years ago now because I think my daughter was 2, and she just absolutely loved these chickens. She loved chasing around the yard, picking them up, and all these things. And to our fault, this is the first time we ever had chickens, and we didn't know really what to do as far as like letting them roam. We had a short fence up that all the houses had up in our subdivision. We only had a 1/4 acre
like
lot.
A little short 4-foot chain linked.
Yep. Yeah. And they would just hop right over and then go into the neighbors' yards. So that was the real reason. Like it was an issue, and that 100% was our fault. I never really thought about like how easy it is to clip wings and how it's not painful for the chicken at all, and like how you can do it effectively so they don't hop over those fences and stay local. Or just simply building a larger run for them to be able to get out and
with
get
a little
the
roof on there.
Yeah, so they can't get out. But it was really frustrating, and ultimately we tried to. Michigan has a Right to Farm Act, and try to utilize that, but there was stipulations that kind of didn't allow us to be a part of the.
What did the city
farming.
cite you for?
So they didn't cite us. The guy from the city called me, and he's actually super nice. And I couldn't even be mad at him. He's like, "Hey, one of your neighbors, complained. Unfortunately, in your zone, you're not allowed to have chickens, so you guys got to get rid of them." And he's like, "I'm so sorry. Like, I hate that you have to get rid of them. Like, I totally get it. I would love to have chickens myself, but we can't in this zone." And I was like, "Well, what about the Right to Farm Act? I can do this." He goes, "No, it doesn't apply here. You guys got about 4 days before you have to get rid of them." So we were able to kind of scramble and find someone to take the hens. But yeah, it was really frustrating, and we ended up doing a Freedom of Information Act and found out which neighbor it was.
Oh, that's amazing! You FOIA'd your neighbor.
Yeah, found out it was the neighbor behind us,
Yeah.
and he was a very, very grumpy. I'm not gonna say mean things. He was grumpy, and so him and his wife both were very grumpy.
You know what?
people.
Let's dox him right here. Address.
All right.
Start sending them 1 egg per day in an envelope.
They'll probably love
crushed.
it. Send them, kill them with kindness, right here.
There was so many times that I thought about going and buying a huge litter of chickens and just putting them in his backyard.
Oh my god!
Or just like randomly like getting a bunch of people to just stand in our backyard and just look at him when he comes out in the back behind his house and just stare really ominously. Like there's so many things that went through my head, like kind of play mind games. But yeah, ultimately we ended up moving, got a place with more land, and before we bought the house, I looked up all the city codes, and you had to have, couldn't be within 175 feet of any other property. So I strategically put them at over 175 feet away from any other property.
Well, and you're in a zone where you're allowed to have them.
We are.
If you have the right amount of acreage, you're allowed to have them.
Did they clarify what zone you're allowed to have the poultry?
You talking about at the last house?
Yeah, in your city.
Yeah. They did. When we were a few miles outside of that zone of where we were able.
Do you know
to
what it was classified as?
No,
I'm just curious.
I know in Livonia you have to have a half an acre in Livonia.
Yeah. Minimum
to be able to have them. Yeah. So and as far as our listeners go, these are all the things that you can easily go look them up. It's really simple. You just whatever your township, your city. Just type in your city zoning or like zoning laws into Google, and a document will come up. You can search it through all like pretty much any modern day city, even mine that's like in the boonies. They have the same exact little system. Like I think every place in Michigan has it that has some kind of zoning laws, and you can go and you can read through. You got to find your zone. So like you got to maybe look at the zoning map and find your house, look what color it is. It'll tell you, are you in an R, like a residential 1, residential 2, depending on basically the population density is going to determine what zone you're in. And then you just go read the rules and you'll find it in there. You can probably search the word poultry or livestock, chickens, and you'll find it pretty quickly. You just got to kind of dig and look it up. And usually people at the city, if you just call them and say, "Hey, am I allowed to have chickens here?" They'll tell you like, yeah, I mean, maybe just don't give them, well, you might have to give them your address, but you could also just like give them a couple doors down the address if you don't want to have like somebody be like, "Hey, this person's thinking about getting chickens, and maybe we'll flag them or something." You can just
go drive by.
Yeah, give a close by address or something like that if you're worried about that.
I think another, like when I was looking for birds for myself, the other thing is just Googling your city and what the laws are. Just, can I have birds in the city? And there will be people on forums within your town that are asking these questions to other people.
On like Nextdoor or Facebook.
That have already done the homework.
Yep.
And so that's what I did was I live in the same city as him, but a couple miles over. And I don't have the land minimum, but I'm in the zone. So if like he brought up, there's the Michigan Right to Farm Act. As long as I have as long as I'm selling something from my farm, it is considered a legitimate farm. So in order for that to be valid, I have to have an LLC and a sales license with a receipt that shows I'm selling the poo, I'm selling the feathers, I'm selling the eggs, whatever it is.
The meat, whatever you do.
And Michigan protects that person specifically, in this town, but where maybe the city doesn't allow it, but the state circumvents the city law.
Well, and you also went to your neighbors and you said, hey, we're going to have ducks. Like, do you have any issues? We'll give you some eggs. And
I think that's a big part of it is making sure, if you are in close proximity to your neighbors, is making sure that they're okay with it. Because if they're not,
you got unlucky, right? Like, if that guy wasn't there, you probably would have had chickens the whole time.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I know if I looked out back and I saw, like, someone's chicken jumped over, I'd be like, hey, could you just, like, keep your chicken? Like, if I didn't watch it, I would.
That was the other frustrating part.
There
was never a conversation. Like, we see this guy on a regular basis, like, because our backyards faced each other. So if you're on your back porch and he's on his back porch, you're easily within shouting distance.
I know exactly what house it is because I remember you being like, we don't really like those people anymore.
No. You also have to think about it from their perspective, too.
Yeah.
You really don't want to confront somebody about, like, what could be considered a pet. Like, hey, I don't really like your birds, right? Get them out of my fucking yard. Nobody wants to say that.
Well, that would certainly be an aggressive way to do it.
Yeah. I'm saying, though,
make sure
if
your
you're
chickens
upset,
don't come over here?
if he's grumpy, he's not. I mean, if you're already upset and you don't like something that's happening that your neighbor's doing, it's already going to be a hostile conversation. Like, it's going to be aggressive. And if you don't want that aggressive conversation, you just go to the city and have them take care of it because that's their job.
Yeah, it's the chicken shit thing to do. No pun intended.
Well, I think too. I'm
scared to talk to people.
Yeah.
Well,
I think too. There's a lot of planning that goes into more. I mean, even past birds or poultry or anything like that. There's a lot of planning that needs to go into gardening and things like that too. Because you have. And we're gonna talk about it with Kate a little bit more later on, but you really got to take a look at a lot of different elements of your yard and what you want to grow, to then figure out what's actually going to work for you. So all the areas, every state, you have specific regions inside the U.S. And so you go online, you find your specific region, and you'll have your grow region. So for us, I think it's 6B or 7B. 6. So there are specific crops that you can grow that are going to work better here in Michigan than obviously a place like the Carolinas or Florida or something like that. And then you can utilize those grow seasons to then kind of reciprocate different crops and stuff in one after another. So as one kind of crop finishes off and it's done, you cut it back, you plant new ones, and then you can move forward. But a lot of it has to go into that pre-planting.
Yeah, you definitely have to understand where you live. Please know where you live. Otherwise you'll now you can grow, like we're in 6A, 6B, where I think I'm in 6A and you're in 6B. I think it might be a little different because I'm an hour north, but you could grow something that grows in 7 as long as it's not a perennial. Like an annual, you can get away with it because maybe you have to start it inside and keep it inside a little longer, but you don't have, it'll be fine. In Michigan, you can't go and grow tropical plants though. Like don't go try to grow an orange tree. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
But you could grow some crops that maybe take a little bit longer where they'd go, well, that needs, you really need a 16-week grow season. Well, just start it inside and it'll be okay.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think Kate would be the best person to kind of dive into this topic a little bit more. So maybe this is a good opportunity for me to bow out and let the better half come in, and you guys get to talk a little bit more about dirt.
It'll be nice to look at somebody better looking across the table from me.
Is she going to serve us drinks? Is that what's happening?
No, she's not serving us drinks.
She's sharing
drinks. She's sharing.
She
sharing the recipe.
Yeah, she created the drink. That's the next level. Creating the drink.
And she's creating her own business, which is great.
Created.
Great segue, Tyler.
Bye, Joel.
See you guys.
All right.
Bye, Joel.
All right. Welcome in Kate Keith. Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Kate Keith of Kate's Flower Farm. Is it Kate's or Kate's Flower Farm, right?
Kate's Flower Farm, yeah.
Kate with a K?
Yeah.
That would be brutal if it was with a C.
Why?
Is any CATE? That would just, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. I feel bad for people that spell their name really weird.
Yeah, I'm not about it.
One of my neighbors' names is Earlene.
Earlene?
Because she was named after her dad's name, who's Earl.
Oh, no.
She's Earlene, not like Eileen or...
Is she Scandinavian?
Terrible. No, she's just,
I think of American. I think of Erling Haaland, which is, the Norwegian soccer player. International soccer player.
I guess you would know. I don't know.
We got hockey, soccer, and probably
nothing.
Nothing. Flowers.
Flowers is what we're on about.
So we're going to talk about your flower farm because this is this technically your 2?
Third
Third
technically,
season.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Third season.
Yeah.
And it gets bigger every year.
Yes. Every year.
Tell us about how it all started. What's your first memory of flowers, and how's it developed since then?
Yeah, my first memory of flowers is really my parents like cultivating our like property. So they were amazing landscapers. My dad had a landscape business in Florida, which was really cool. But
And
I
Florida's
wasn't-
next level landscaping.
Oh, for
like
sure.
Michigan's like, hey, put some bushes over here.
Yeah, I mean, we
The snow's
didn't
coming, so
Yes.
we didn't really have any like wildlife pressure, so like they could plant whatever they wanted without issue. Really, the only wildlife we had was an alligator that lived in the back.
Oh, that's it.
Nice.
So we had a fence for him, but other than that, it was fine.
Was he your pet? Like you
no.
kept him in a little cage, or?
No, he just lived in the lake behind our house. So anyway, but yeah, I didn't really care about anything that they were planting. Like it looked nice, but like as a teenager, you're not like, oh yeah, I really want to go out there and plant those elderberry bush. You know, I don't know what they had.
You were like, I'm going to be a horticulturist.
Yeah, no, that wasn't in the plan. And so I think like my first memory of like really falling in love with flowers was probably when we moved here to Michigan, and I just found like a flower farm online and was like, oh my gosh, Joel, like let's go grab some flowers. She has one arrangement left. She posted it online, and we drove onto her farm, and it was just wow. Like this is what I want our life to look like spaced out from people, beautiful flowers lining the driveway as you go up. There's a little farm stand with eggs in there. Like that just sounded so amazing. And so taking those flowers home, they were different than what you find at the grocery store or like what you just grab when you're out. Like they're not these little dyed flowers or like cheapy flowers that you just see. They were like gorgeous and quality, and they smelled amazing.
The
So,
stems are different.
yeah.
How many years ago was this?
Oh man, I don't know. Probably like four or five, because it didn't take me long from that
Yeah.
to be like, I want to try it. I want to go into it.
So you were in Livonia at that time.
Yeah, Livonia. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
I remember you had all the planter boxes as your humble beginnings.
Yes.
And then you moved here.
Okay, so most people, though,
Mm-hmm.
like that happens. That's great. I mean, I think a lot of people have an appreciation for flowers.
Yeah.
And that's, that sounds like where it started, was just like you maybe it was like built in your DNA a little bit from your parents.
Yeah.
And even though we all are like, I'm not going to be like my parents, I remember thinking like, why does my dad want to rip up the grass and put in a garden? That's where I want to play baseball.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing, Dad?
Yeah.
And my dad had tons of roses. Like he had 100 rose plants.
That's
and stuff.
amazing.
Like did the rose things, and he made his, he breeded them or whatever he did, and
Yeah.
did it in the window over the winter and all this stuff. And I remember being like, this is so lame. Like, why are you spending your time doing this? And now I'm like, all right, Dad, what did you do? I'm asking all these questions.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of like built into you somewhere, and
Yeah.
it comes back. But for most people, it's just like they plant some flowers out front of their house,
Yeah.
and they do their thing. What were you doing before? Because this is like your full-time thing. This is your thing.
Yeah. I mean,
Is flowers now.
I work part-time at a greenhouse, but like that was just
That's to
be
get a discount.
around. Yeah, to get a discount and to be around flowers more and to learn, because
Yeah.
the owner is just like such a huge wealth of knowledge. He's been doing it for years and years and years since he was a kid. So like his parents, and it's like a family-run business. So that is really just to get more into it. But beyond that, like flowers is it. So
Yeah.
like that's my hope, is flowers is it for the rest.
What were you doing before flowers?
Yeah, flowers. Before this, it was social work. So like I'm a licensed master social worker, and I did that for about 10 years. And then I got really burnt out. So just dealing with the crises, dealing with the assessments, the paperwork, the red tape behind just getting one person or one family help was insane. Like I would just tell Joel after work every day, like it feels like you're like in the mud and you can't really move. Like you can't help anybody because of like all the things that are in place. So it came from like wanting to do something purposeful, wanting to do something meaningful, not really being able to find it in the depths of social work, and then moving into, I really want my family to be outside. With families nowadays, it's like scooting from school to, like the next sports thing to another after school activity, music. It's well intentioned.
And then video games when you get home.
Yeah.
TV, you got
Yeah.
your shows. You got to watch Bluey before bed or something.
Yeah, exactly. So it just kind of came from wanting to get us a little bit more fresh air, a little bit more exercise, getting outside. and making sure that they could actually name some plants and not just like TV shows. Like they know how to operate the remote. They know how to find Disney on there and how to find their favorite show. But I also wanted them to know a little bit more about the outside. So that's kind of where it all came from.
I think I've seen that it's something like kids, a 5-year-old kid can recognize like 150 brands, but then most can't recognize 5 species of trees.
Yeah.
which is sad in a way.
Pretty sad.
Is what you're doing with the flowers complementary towards anything else in your life? Something that your husband's doing, something else that you're doing? Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. Joel and I, we really had a nice wedding photography business and videography business for a while. And then just with kids and babysitters and stuff, we kind of had to let that go and stop pursuing that. So with those two backgrounds, mine in photography, his in videography, you know, having that with a flower farm is just really amazing, because then you get to capture all these beautiful blooms, the field in bloom, the field as it dies back in the winter. So it's just like nice to have those two kind of complement what we're doing now.
Yeah, and people can see what you're doing
Yeah.
on like a grassroots level, not just, hey, here's the flower, like come buy some flowers. It's actually,
Right.
they develop a personal connection with you too through that.
And the beauty from it, like flowers are art to me, like creating them and putting them in centerpieces and arrangements, like that's creativity, that's art, that's a little next level than just like grabbing something, you know, from a store. So
Yeah.
Cool.
Now, as part of your flowers, are you also doing, I think you're doing vegetables, yeah?
I have told Joel I cannot like do that in my head. My whole head is flowers. So like
Okay.
I know a little bit about veggies. I'm actually going to take a class with Mark and Katie soon to
Katie's
learn
my
more.
wife, if
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to learn a little bit more about them, because my brain really is just like full-fledged flowers and the details within, because it's a big world, you know.
Are you growing perennials or annuals, or like both?
A little bit of both. So I really had hoped last year to transition more into perennials, but they do cost more. They take longer to establish, and then to get the amount of cuts you need off of them, it's just, that's a long-term game. And then the seeded annuals are more short-term and a little bit more profitable.
Well, they tend to be much more spectacular.
Perennials, I would say, are more of the spectacular types, like peonies. That's a perennial. So those are just like, people go crazy over them in the spring, especially here in Michigan. And they ship really well and they store really well. So you could have peonies cut off of your bushes and just store them dry, 0 water, for like 8 weeks. And then you could send them to your mom or whomever elsewhere. So peonies are like a really amazing perennial. Then you think about like sunflowers. Sunflowers are great, but maybe not like as next level as peonies. You get fragrance in peonies. You get all these ruffles in the petals. Sunflowers are a little
Sunflowers
different.
are kind of the like, you go and you take pictures with the sunflowers, and that's where it's just like those pictures are so cool because the yellow, and it's just such a
and the
different-
height, you know, you don't see a lot of flowers or plants that are, you know, above you as a 6-foot man, you know, whatever it might be. So
True.
yeah.
She points to me. I'm the smallest man. I'm not at 6 foot yet, honey. I'll never be 6.
By the way, I don't
believe
think.
in you.
Maybe someday with the right shoes.
Yes, you need to start wearing some heels.
Yeah,
That'll
maybe.
get you. I don't think we talked a little bit about this drink with Joel.
Yeah.
But he butchered talking
no.
about it. Like he was like, I think it's like.
You need
but
to
it's your
introduce the
3,
drink.
2, 1. Tell
Yes.
us about this drink because
Okay.
it actually is fantastic.
really
Well, good. So one of my favorite things in a cocktail is cranberry. I don't know why. I love cranberry juice. Vodka, because I'm gluten-free and I can't really have like whiskeys and things like that. But it's essentially the lazy girl take on a Cosmo.
Okay.
So we would make like drinks for our queso nights. Like Wednesday night, we have queso and drinks. And I would make my Cosmo, but it would take so long. And I'm like, I just want to sit down and have queso and like watch our show. And I just want to get on it. And I was like, what if I just kind of like simplify it? So anyway, it is 3 parts vodka, 2 parts cranberry juice, and 1 part of the orange liqueur.
Cheers.
Yes, cheers.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming
It's
on.
really
good.
It's great. And a little tiny orange slice.
A little rind. It's a little rind.
Tell us about this queso night because
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like something you're going to let me join, but it sounds like
No.
something I might want to do.
That's sounds like
Okay,
it's
I
just
didn't
for the
mean like I
man.
just meant like, all right. Tell us.
Aren't you lactose intolerant?
Tell
What are
me
you
about
even asking
queso
about
night
queso for?
before 10 p.m.
Okay. Queso night. Queso night is Wednesday night. pretty much every week. It's always Wednesday. And we make a nice big bowl of queso. Joel makes chorizo with it, all the spices. I can't cook, so he does all the spices. And then we just sit and we watch, and we don't talk about bills. We don't talk about any responsibilities. It's literally just like fun, So it's kind of like our space to just chill and have that. So
Nice.
Where are the kids during that time?
They're in bed.
Oh,
I love that. And whose idea was this?
Oh gosh. Queso night? I don't know. I think it just was both of us wanting to eat queso all the time. And then we're like, maybe we should bring it back a notch and just have a dedicated night. So
make it official.
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's really fun.
That's
Yeah.
So let's go back to the plants. I feel like whenever I tried to plant stuff, I maybe don't plan at the right time. Do you have some sort of plan?
Katie's like, yep. My
Do you have
wife
some
is.
sort of a plan that's like, okay, we have to start seeding these in February, and these ones in March, and these ones. Tell me a little bit about what you do there.
Yeah, it's a huge task. Depending on how big of a plot you want to create, it's a huge task. Right now I have an Excel sheet that automates everything. So it automates my bed size. So if I have a 3-foot bed, that's 80 foot long versus a 2-foot bed that's 10 feet long, because we have a couple of raised beds as we walk into our garden that are much smaller than what we have elsewhere. So it automates all of that, and then it has the plant spacing input, so 9 inches versus 6 inches of each plant. And this plant spacing is specific to how can we get this plant to grow productively without being choked out. So if you plant them, 4 inches, you're probably not going to get a lot of stems.
Your yield won't be as great. Yeah.
Right, and the stems could be weak. They're not getting enough light. But if you space them too far apart, you're not using your space effectively. So all of that planning happens in January for me.
Okay.
So there were 2 weeks in January where I was like, Joel, my brain is mush. I can't think through everything. So I was trying to break it up in terms of season. So spring versus summer versus fall. My spring and fall flowers are different than my summer, because spring and fall are the cool loving plants, and the summer ones are the heat loving. So it's a lot, but
where did you get this spreadsheet?
I want to know.
Did you make it? Did you find it? Tell us
I'm
about
not
this.
Great
I'm
at
a big
Excel.
spreadsheet guy, so I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, actually, so the Florette Workshop is something that I was given a partial scholarship to this past year, and so taking that sheet has created this massive worksheet that's just amazing. It has anything from vining plants to dahlias to zinnias, anemones. So she had graciously given that to the workshop members. But there are lots of other Excel sheets out there that might not go as deep into it, but do help you with planning times and things like that. There's one actually.
There's some good apps too.
There's one that I used last year called Seed Time.
Yes, I think you told me about Seed Time.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So they have.
So you led me down the path of Seed Time, and you were like, "I'm going for a better route."
Seed Time is free, and then it had a lot of veggies, but I think my qualm with it was it didn't have as many flowering varieties, and each variety is different. So a snapdragon, you think, oh yeah, snapdragons are all the same. They're not. There's some snapdragons that need more space, less space. So just having the differential in the one I have now is just nicer. So
part of this app, does it kind of coach you on if you've got sunflowers growing in a certain area of your plot, you probably don't want those growing next to a really small flowering plant. Does it help coach you, or
it
tell you
doesn't
not
coach
to do
you on that, but at least with Seed Time, I knew it told you when to cultivate the ground, when you'll probably harvest, just based off of the non-specific variety, like tomato. Versus
which is generally, even if it's a 2-week give or take,
it's pretty helpful.
So tell us about how you prep the land. Are you a tiller?
No, please don't till.
What about the first time?
Yeah, the first time we did till the first time because we were novices. We didn't really know. But we were also trying to kill this grass really fast, and I knew I didn't want to use Roundup, and my dad was a huge Roundup fan. I was like, okay, I don't want to do that. How else can we get this grass gone to put in our raised beds and everything? But now what we do is a no-till method. It's kind of what they call lasagna method, where you put either newspaper or cardboard with no labels attached or tape on it, and you lay it on the ground right on top of your grass, and then you wet it. So take your hose, wet it, and then immediately put your compost and dirt on top. You do have to wait a while for that to
You got to have some time.
Yeah, you have to have time. Not like, you're not thinking like 3 months. We're thinking like 6 to 8 weeks. And then
That's
you can plant into. Yeah. But if you have more time, like if you're thinking the fall, I know next spring I really want to get into it. You can take a really big silage tarp and just lay it out with some maybe rocks or like landscape pins in the side, and that will kill the grass, kill the weeds, but then you're not tilling. You know, you're killing the things that you need to kill in order to bring in some more life, some biodiversity, but then you're not, you know, hurting the worms underneath, the organic matter. You know, it honestly, when you till, it actually brings up carbon into the air. So like not tilling is helpful. So
I have heard that you can, a suggestion is till the first time to kill your grass or like, and then you cover it. You know, you do like a cover crop or something, or you just put mulch over top of it, and you do that. But then you never till again. Yeah, because that can be like if you know, you're sitting here right now and you're like, well, I kind of need to get started. Maybe you're like a little further south too. I think it's okay, like to till the first time if you're like, if you haven't planned out.
It's not like perfect, but if you really need to get going, I mean, even just some newspaper could be helpful.
And you can like. There is a difference between, well, I'm gonna till, and I'm gonna till. Like, you can kind of pick your grass up. You could use a hand tiller, which is far less invasive than like. I mean, I have a tractor, and it actually like the house I bought comes with a like we basically negotiated in. Sorry, there's like a piece of dust, like a hair just floating around. The house, we negotiated the tractor into the house. And it came with this tiller, like a $3,000 monster tiller. And I did till up some of like an area that was just huge. Yeah. And that was just unreasonable to try and do otherwise. But it tills. Like that thing just goes, and it goes deep, like 6 to 12 inches deep. Whereas if you get a hand tiller, you can really control how deep that goes, and you could just get the grass, and it would be better. Yeah,
I would say that's better. Like less depth is definitely going to be better than like really getting in there. But what you're doing is you're kind of nixing out all the water infiltration that happens, and like the paths the worms create, and the worms who are eating, you know, the dead plant roots from the ground. And then from there, like when you loosen up, sometimes the weed seeds can come on top.
Oh, you can get stuff that like have been under there for 50 years, 100 years even. Yeah.
So are you adding anything to your soil? I know you guys have chickens.
Yes. Yeah. So we always get a big truckload of compost. So it's sitting out in our driveway right now. Because it was so warm, we were able to order it early, which is nice because then that gives us more time to like take it out to the field. But we do have like the chicken poop. We take that out, and that's really high in like phosphorus or phosphate. And so one of my soil tests that I had done at the MSU extension office, like I dug up a big part of my garden, put it in a baggie, sent it to them, and they texted me, here are your results. One of it is that phosphorus. So like taking more of that out this summer. And
so it was, you're saying it was too high in phosphorus?
No, it was too low.
It was low.
Yeah.
She's got to add it in.
Yep.
Is there a certain plant that you can put in your garden that will add that to the soil?
I don't know. That's
the
a
cover
good
crops.
question.
Do you guys do cover crops?
Cover crops is something that I really want to get into.
It's really cool.
Yeah. We have some of the seeds for cover crops, but we haven't used it yet.
It is also like if you're just starting out, it is an expense. Like you have to buy a lot of seed to cover everything. I did it with clover and some kind of pea. I don't remember exactly what kind of pea it was, but I mean, some of them, because of the way that the roots grow, it breaks everything up. We went from this area that was just rocks everywhere. I mean, you dig a 6-inch hole, you're pulling up probably 2 or 3 rocks like this. Jeez. And then you're pulling up a ton of other rocks. It was really rocky soil. We planted these cover crops, and I dug holes for plants the next year. And yes, rocks are still there, but the soil just broke right apart. And it really is amazing how much of a difference. And for like a couple $100 to cover, and we're talking like a 5,000 square foot area, a couple $100, that's not bad compared to the work that you have to do to get through really rough soil. And the soil is unbelievable now in there.
Yeah.
I plant anything just goes ham in that spot.
I mean, if you think about it, soil's not meant to be like just like empty. If you think about it, it's not just supposed to be dirt. There's supposed to be naturally native plants there. So that's kind of the point of the cover crops, is to quickly put something in, get that dirt moving, get the worms feeding on something, and then take it out. So there's no erosion and all that. So cover crops are definitely a great thing, but I haven't been able to start that yet.
Yeah, and I don't know, cover crops for the flower farm. Is that,
a lot of people do use it.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. We have a nice big bag of like cover crop seeds from Johnny Seeds, which is where we buy a lot of our stuff.
Yes, Johnny Seeds is a great spot.
Yep.
One more question.
Okay.
Do you cold stratify any of your seeds?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So with the cold stratification, there are seeds that like the cold versus the heat. So they need that to be able to produce. So think like tulips, narcissus, anemones, ranunculus. There are some that have like a temp that is like too low for them. So my ranunculus and anemones, they can't like last in this part of Michigan without some type of cover. But the tulips and narcissus or daffodils, they do like the cold,
Which
and they
like
need
the
it.
bulbs, right?
Yeah, the bulbs. Yeah. So there are definitely things like that. There's stock that we're growing. It's super fragrant, but that does need the cold as well. So things like that, we're not starting under heat mats. We're not putting it out in the heat of summer. We're planting it correctly to be able to grow and do what it needs to do in the time.
And once you plant a tulip, I mean, you're pretty good.
Tulips are pretty easy, except for there is a disease called tulip fire. So every 7 years, wherever you have your tulips, not for landscaping but for cutting, you do have to move your beds.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And you can't plant tulips in that same bed for 7 years. So
what does Amsterdam do about that?
I don't know. That's a great question.
The Netherlands is
They just go, who cares? We have so many.
I got one last question before we close up this segment.
Yeah.
Where are you going with this? What is your long-term vision for your flower farm? What do you want to get into?
Yeah. Long-term vision. If I could do anything I wanted right now or like in the future, money's not a question. It's where we can work from home with our kids, homeschool as we do now, but then also have the big cash crops that we're getting in the spring.
Wow, there we go. You're done. That was like a game show. Sorry, go ahead.
Is the camera gonna?
No,
the camera's fine. Yeah.
So the big cash crops in the spring and in the fall, because in the spring that's where you get your peonies, and in the fall is when you get dahlias. Those are two really big money makers in the flower world. And in the summer is when I want to be outside with my kids just having fun. I don't want to be doing. Some people do year-round school, but I don't really care to do that. I want them to have that break and enjoy that. So summer is when I don't want to be out working as much. I'd rather work the most in the spring and the most in the fall.
Like be able to travel.
See our family. So those are kind of my ideas in the long run, is kind of focus on two main crops. Peonies are perennials, and if we move further south, dahlias would be a perennial as well. So then that's less hands-on work, less seeding, less trays, less, all of that.
More passive,
passive income. That's what we
I saw some lady doing like an acre of peonies, and then she was like, "Oh, we made like $250K."
Yeah, that's where she lives. She lives here. What? She's not far. So.
And we have a space.
Yeah,
we're gonna talk more about that.
Let's do. I have a wholesaler all lined up actually.
Right. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll absolutely have you on again. Of course,
Awesome.
It's really easy to have you on.
Yeah.
This is
film
your
at your
house. But thank you again for coming on. You can find Kate on Instagram, kates.flower.farm, and then katesflowerfarm.com. We'll have all the links in the description. Go down there and click on those. Follow her. Tell her how much you love her, especially how much you love her more than you love us, for sure.
Those ugly dudes.
Yeah. And thanks for being on the show.
You, Kate.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
It's
so welcome back, Joel.
Welcome back.
Thanks. Thank you.
We were just talking with Ben.
Great conversation with Joel. Joel! Oh no, I just called your wife Joel.
With his wife.
What is happening?
With his wife Kate.
Wow.
This is what I'm talking about. That 3-2-1 will get you.
It has got.
It will sneak up behind you and it will take you down. And there's nothing that you can do about it.
It's true. Yes.
I feel like Ben got a little too friendly with your wife on those transitions, but we can talk about that later.
We're not talking about nothing. I'm all about action.
We threw him in the corner. We told him he had to go away.
Good.
So once again, thanks to your wife and or or you're her husband. I don't know which way that works.
It doesn't matter.
She's my wife.
We're glad to hear about her business
wife you're talking about.
and her planning and how I mean, she really has passion. As she was saying, I have a biology degree and I know about plants, but nothing like that. I mean, she made me look like a goddamn fool.
It's like college.
She
teaches
does that
you a lot
to
of
me
things.
on a regular basis.
She makes you
daily
look like a fool.
basis. I am. Yeah. She exposes the fool that I am.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it that way.
So it was cool to see her passion with every type of plant imaginable. Her planning. And I really want to relate this back to the viewers who are homesteading, maybe looking to get into homesteading, are wondering how do they start. And as the man of the family, caretaker of the house, how do you think they should go about doing it from your own perspective?
As far as like from the relationship standpoint or a roles perspective,
if you've got land, even if it's a little bit like you did in Livonia,
You have a backyard.
a little bit,
Yeah.
you have a backyard and you want to provide for yourself, what's the best way to start?
Till.
till versus no till. Did you guys get into that?
Yes, we did get into that. Yeah.
Do not till is the clear message.
No, don't till it. It's silly and it's a lot more work. No, I mean, it just, again, we talked about it at kind of the beginning of the episode. Find your region, find what's going to be most successful, and try that first. If you've never done planting, or if you're like, I kill everything that I touch, like, find things that are, like, pun intended, low-hanging fruit.
Okay, first of all, if you kill everything you touch, it's just because you're a lazy sack of shit. You're being lazy.
That's
because
pretty abrasive.
if you just kill everything you touch, that means that you are not trying. Or you have done no research. You cannot just take a seed, put it into the ground, and walk away. Like,
That's true.
You have to water things. You would not have a kid and not give them food.
Yeah.
You would go to jail. Like,
Plant jail.
so
You're
if
going
you
to plant jail.
Straight to jail.
a plant is living. You have to give it food. You have to give it water. So you can't just not do anything. And yeah, sure, there are times everyone's killed a plant. Like everybody's even people that are really good with plants. You have plants that die. Like it's just that's why you don't just plant one. You plant 25 tomato plants, and then you take the best ones. But
Well, even with livestock, I mean,
Sure.
if you're going to have livestock, you're going to have dead stock.
Yep.
That's the old phrase, and
something's gonna kill them,
so-
whether it be a germ, like a bug,
you're
or
going to lose something along the way. But I think the real message that you're trying to say is start digging and put in some effort.
yes,
If you're not willing to put in any effort, if you're not willing to do some research beforehand to see what kind of soil your plants need, when to plant it, it's not going to be successful.
yeah, just go to the grocery store at that point. Like if you're not willing to do it, then go to the grocery store. Or if you only are going to start and you're not actually going to follow anything through, then just don't bother. But it's not that difficult to spend 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes. Who doesn't have
Not
10
even a
minutes?
day.
10 minutes a day. If on average, let's say in a week, you need to spend 1 hour. You can figure out how big of a space you can have where you only need to spend 1 hour per week in order to cultivate that.
Yep. And honestly, if you start things or growing things indoors as well, it's even easier because you don't even have to go outside.
It's true.
But I think one thing that gets overlooked quite a bit too is that you can't just go out and buy any seed and expect all of them to be winners. There's a germination rate. And if you buy low quality seeds, you're going to have a low germination rate. So if you have trouble like getting things started, look at the actual quality of seeds that you're buying. And then decide, okay, is this a germination thing? Is it an environmental thing? Make sure you're buying the right dirt. Like so many people are like, oh, I'm going to get stuff that, for flowers. Well, there's fertilization for flowers, and then there's optimal fertilization for vegetables. There's a difference between the two. Buy the right soil. Yeah, buy the right soil. If you only try to grow house plants, there's different each plant almost there's a huge variety of different plants for different soils. Some need sandy soil, some need stuff that's always wet and moist, and like all these things. So make sure that you're doing the actual research on what you're wanting to grow before you actually go out and just start buying shit and thinking that hey, it's it's me. I can't grow things. It's not you. Aside from an education standpoint, you've got to educate yourself and put in the effort, and the plant will grow.
I think I really valued what your wife Kate said, in that she found a spreadsheet that told her, if we're gonna have this much bedding dedicated to this plant, it needs to be spaced out this much. And even that small little detail can keep your plant, or help your plant thrive and prevent them from getting choked out because they're too close together. So planning ahead of time and making sure that you're not overcrowding or maybe putting really tall plants against really short plants and they're not getting enough sunlight goes a long ways for your
and you can
crops.
Google the companion plants. There's a lot of plants that grow really well together because some plants grow deep roots, some grow shallow, and they can grow in conjunction with each other. And yes, she has I'm sure a wonderful spreadsheet because you guys have a massive flower garden. And that's not where most people are starting. They're going to start small. They probably have some beds in front of their house. Maybe they do something in their backyard. And in that case, just read the damn packet of seeds that says you can plant these 6 inches apart or 4 inches apart, whatever it may be. Follow what it says. Don't go, well, I know better, because you don't. The people that sell those seeds for their livelihood probably know better than you do. Right. So just follow what it says on the seed packet, or just don't start from seeds. That's the other thing we didn't really get into, is that you don't have to start from seeds. Yes, it's more expensive, but you can go buy tomato plants and you can find them on clearance at places. And shoot, I bought plenty of tomato plants from Home Depot on clearance for $1 because they have some plants that they're not doing super well, or it may not be tomatoes, but any kind of plant. You can find them half dead, and you can take those things and plant them in the ground. And they may not come back that year, but they come back the next year, and you get them for 90% off because they don't look pretty in the store, but the roots are fantastic. That's all that really matters in the end, is the roots.
Yeah, buy plugs. Go buy plugs. If you have a hard time germinating things from seed, go buy plugs instead and grow it from there, and then see if there's an issue with it. Because again, environment's going to be a huge part of it. But like you said, if you go at end of season and you get things that will come back the next year, you can buy them for super cheap. I remember texting you last year, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're at this plant place, and they've got Sweet 100s. They've got all these different tomato plants and everything." I was like, "Dude, they're all less than $1."
We went to Kate's.
Said, "What do you want?"
The place where Kate works. I bought 20, it was 15 or 20 blueberry plants, $1 each, and they were the I don't know what a quart size pot. Normally those are $15 a piece, and I got them for $1 each.
I remember all the text messages with the receipt pictures, save $200, save $300.
Yeah, I think we bought 60 or 70 plants, and I think they were all about $1 each. So a couple of them were $2 or something. I think it was something like we would have paid $700 or something like that, and we paid $60. That's crazy. So that's the way to do it. But of course, we're at the beginning of the season, so it's not like you're going to go out and you're going to get those deals. But you know what deals you can get is on dirt.
Yep.
You go out and buy dirt right now. They often at the beginning of the season they've got so much stock to move. This is the time to get your compost, your mulch, your dirt. Go out and get this.
And there are funny things, especially if you're in the north. And in Michigan, they have frost laws to where you only can transport a certain amount of dirt when a frost has happened recently, because the compost clumps up with the frost and creates more density, so it's heavier. They're getting the trucks out on the road with compost in it.
For the colder regions.
Right, for the colder regions. So, and not everyone has that, but when we called to get our 8 yards of compost recently, we had to wait for everything to thaw out before they were able to load their truck up and bring it over. So keep that in mind too. But for the most part, find out what the plant you want to grow is. Research that plant, the best environment for it, and then try to recreate that environment. That's all it is, and it will thrive from there if you do it right.
Yeah.
And how about for the listeners that maybe don't have that much land and are nervous about ruining what little property they have?
Not my grass.
What do you think we could say to them?
Grass is for chumps. I'm just kidding. I like.
It's a personal preference for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, me, I don't understand. Like, we have a huge backyard. Like, so we have plenty of space for our kids to play around, and we have space for a huge garden. Not everybody has that. When we started, we only had our first house had a 1/4 acre lot. The house was on that 1/4 acre, so our actual backyard was maybe like a 1/6 of an acre or something, or an 1/8 of an acre. And we had just a handful of raised beds that we did. It took up a huge chunk of our backyard, but that was okay for us because that was important to us. So you have to assess, like, how important is it actually for you to do that stuff yourself, and then decide, if you have a spouse, decide with them what's going to be beneficial for the family,
and what your family actually going to eat.
Yeah,
right. Like, I mean, I think anybody who's like really gets into it, you sometimes just buy something because you're like, that'd be freaking cool to grow.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, I don't even want to eat that.
I don't want to eat 800 tomatoes.
Yeah, that doesn't look good. Or like, that's heartburn waiting to happen, whatever.
It's like, buy things that you already eat.
Yes.
Like, I sure, bok choy could be grown in Michigan really well. But guess what? I don't eat bok choy. No. I'm not going to grow that because I'm never going to eat it.
Right.
But
I would eat it. You can trade me. I'll take all your bok choy.
And that's the side of it, is that you can, now if you're, that's next level though, right? Like, hey, I'm going to trade things to get other things. That is next level. I think when you start, you just got to go, what 3 things do we want to eat? Like, maybe you like cucumbers. Grow some cucumbers or carrots. Carrots can be hard, but pick something that you eat.
Green beans, super simple.
Green beans, yes.
Very
Tomatoes, super simple.
Yep.
Peppers, super simple.
Very easy. And you can grow all those things in pots.
Yep.
And like pots and a trellis or something, and like, so you can have a even if you live in an apartment building, if you just have a little balcony, you can put stuff out there.
Yeah.
And you can make it happen. You don't even need the sun. You can grow lights out there.
If you have a small yard and you're worried about taking up a lot of it, grow up. Like, literally, grow up instead of wide. Yeah, grow up and just do it.
Get your ass to work.
Like, grow up. Use cattle fencing in between beds in order to get things to actually grow up and over, and that can dangle from the cattle fencing. There are a ton of ways to utilize.
There's ways to like grow way up out the hydro.
Yeah, the hydro planters.
Yep.
They grow straight up, and you can get 15, 20 plants in like a 2 square foot area.
I think ultimately too, like, you can start a small little garden. Like, your wife is doing flowers. If you wanted to make money growing flowers like Kate does, you can start on a small plot. And even if you mess it up, what's the worst that's going to happen, honestly? Like, the flowers may be a little more difficult because it's a seasonal thing and you have to plant them right. You got to have the right soil, right kind of moisture with the planting. But if you mess up, how much is it to lay some new grass down if you can't get it figured out?
Yeah, if you decide this isn't for me,
$100 to make the repair and do it and restore it, it's not a big loss, but the potential could be pretty high, and you might really enjoy it.
I mean, you could do, if you have bare patches in your yard too, and you just want something simple that looks pretty, like do a wildflower mix. They've got these seeds of wildflower mix that you put out, whether it's shady or it's super sunny. You buy the right mix, but they're like crystals in them that tell you when you've watered enough. So once you water them, they turn to a different color, and then you're like, okay, they've been watered enough. We did that in Livonia around a big tree that we had that was just dead everywhere. So we put it right down. We didn't do anything else except throw the seed down and water it a couple times a week, and it grew these really tall, beautiful wildflowers. We had bees come in. Like, it was really cool. So if you want something simple where you just, I just need a bare spot to look pretty, that's an easy way to do it.
Yeah, it's like a quick hack to do it. And they're usually you can find those wildflower seeds on like clearance at certain times of the year.
Huge
as well.
Bags are like $12 or $15.
I'm picturing your backyard. You guys don't have you guys haven't been there that long.
No.
You guys don't have like a big garden set up at this point. And
we're kind of against it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
you like the space for your kids and.
Well, no, it's not exactly that. It's our house is backed up against several acreage of woods, and there are a lot of deer back there. And because our lot is 1/3 of an acre, we don't really have a lot of space to put up an 8-foot fence to prohibit the deer from coming in.
Oh, do the deer come in your backyard now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they'll hop the fence. They'll be in our backyard eating the grass or whatever. And having vegetables and things,
You'd have to put up
I would have to
sure.
add fencing, and I already have the fencing for the ducks. I don't want to have more fencing. We do really like the kids running around.
You do have a dog, you know. You just make your dog an outside dog.
I don't think she would like it. As much as I think she would do a good job at being an outdoor dog, she is a little lazy.
I know there's some people that are like,
thing.
how dare you put a dog outside?
Yeah, she's a shepherd, so she would do well, and does a good job when we let her out. She'll walk around circles around the kids and the ducks and shepherd more or less without being taught anything. But we love having her inside and being a part of the family that way.
And that's and I think that's actually a good thing. Like, you guys have decided that you're not in a place where you don't want to do that portion of it. You don't want to grow vegetables, and so instead you're doing ducks. You've even eaten one of your ducks.
Yeah, Christmas,
and you're getting eggs from your ducks, and that's that's where you are right now. Like, you're good with what you're doing, and I think that's great. You kind of accidentally stumbled into the ducks, which I think is even cooler.
Yeah,
it was just supposed to be for a birthday party, and now you're like a part of your family, which is really neat. I'm thinking about, so like your backyard, pretty standard, right? Like, it's just like a big square.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what would I do if I had your backyard? I think, and where a lot of people are worried about the space, like, oh, I don't want to like take up this space because you have kids, and like you want to have like a playground, or you want to be able to put a sprinkler out and have kids running in it, whatever. And generally, I think the easiest thing to do is to just take the out right against the fence and just run it. You know, you run against the fence, you can go all three sides or just the back side of your fence. And that's where you go, even if it's 2 feet off the fence. Generally, your backyard is going to be at least 20 feet. That would be a small backyard if it was only 20 feet wide.
Oh, yeah.
So if you had a 20 by 2 foot garden, that's still 40 square feet. That's a lot of square footage to be able to grow some solid veggies.
What I would do if I did have a vegetable garden would be right behind the garage where the shed is.
Yeah, right.
To have that run around the shed, and then you know have all the different vegetables, and it's out of the way, but it's also in a place where we can tie in fencing relatively easy, and wouldn't really take that much extra to protect it there, but ultimately. And we're not looking to start one just because we don't want to run extra fencing right now and worry about it.
It sounds like it's just not something you want to do, and that's fine. Like, you should know those things about yourself.
It's definitely something that we want to do eventually. Yeah. It's just maybe not at this house.
And you just started a company. You got a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean
you just started this great podcast.
That's my wife's passion. Is she's always had a garden. She's always had the vegetables going. We actually have blueberry bushes on the side of our garage. That haven't grown into fruition yet, but they're still alive. They're just really small.
Yeah, it takes usually like 2 to 3 years to really start seeing blueberries.
I read up to 5. We're on 2 years right now, and they're still pretty small. So we're not really pressured. We don't feel the need to have anything. But you've got the
connection in your community for other people who are doing those things.
Yeah.
To where it's easy. Yeah.
I think ultimately if I had to, I would grow them. Ultimately, if it came to a survival, we would put them up immediately.
Of course. Yeah. If it comes to survival, then you just rip up your grass and start planting annuals. If you can, you just got to find the seeds and you're good to go.
Yeah. And we would trade. We would do whatever we needed to. But we don't feel pressured to
hang someone's drywall in exchange for some blueberries. Yeah, totally work.
Blueberries, more than blueberries. My drywall is expensive.
Yes, I noticed.
As someone who has had a quote from Tyler, I know for sure.
He is special kind of drywall. It's not just, it's Gypsum Pro. It's Gypsum Pro Max. That's what you got to start. Yeah, we have the Gypsum Pro Max 3.
We're a national brand, all right. We've got our standards.
I do like that the Patch Boys are sponsoring this episode because you've had your billboard up here the whole time.
Hey, why not?
No, heck yeah, dude.
I came straight from work. I was wearing this today. Just keep wearing it.
Heck yeah.
Keep wearing it.
Heck yeah. Where can people find you? Might as well tell them at this point. There's someone out there who's like, I do need to get that hole patched.
Yeah, well, it's the Patch Boys. We're a national franchise, so if you
Well, you don't care about the other guys. You just care about
I
your.
absolutely do. We run off of territory rights, so I can't operate in a territory that's not my own.
Right.
I can operate in a territory that's not owned, but yeah, I would sponsor any Patch Boy if they were in that area. They're trained really well. They go to a corporate center.
When
They
does
have
a
classes. They're very.
when does a patch boy become a patch man?
I'm afraid not ever.
You never quite mature.
I'm actually hiring a woman right now, and I ironically asked her about, hey, when you're on site, you're a patch boy, or is that going to bother you? And she's like, I don't care at all.
I've always wanted to be a.
She's like, I get it. It's just the name.
You're a patch boy. Like that's their actual title. Their work title is.
I just have to
drywall.
make sure, right?
Is it like drywall boy?
That's
Old
their
dry
title.
boy.
You go from having a pool boy to a drywall boy.
I
don't know where this hole came from.
I'll be your drywall
Just
boy
needs
any day.
patched. Yeah, that 3, 2, 1 really got
That
you guys.
three-
Huh?
Well, and
Missed
it's
out.
this extra little beverage here.
This is caffeine. I like to go for the upper and the downer. Oh, one of our lights
Oh, we
just
lost
died.
one.
Here we go. That's probably a sign.
Yep.
Anything we want
try
to
to look at that really quick?
Nah,
anything we want to hit before we get out of here today?
No, I
Anything
think
else?
I think we did a really good job of covering. If you don't know where to start, the best thing to do is break some ground and do a little bit of research. If you can't figure it out
In that order.
it-
Break the ground, then do your research.
That's what I do.
if you can't figure it out, it's okay. It's easy to repair. It's not a big loss.
Well, I'll tell you what. You can go ahead and comment on probably whatever video you're watching, YouTube, or if you're listening to a podcast. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok, CockTalk the podcast. You can always DM us.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll happily help you. We'd love to have your questions. We'll take your questions into the next episode, and hopefully, we can send you to the right spot to be able to find the solution. And maybe that comes from us. Maybe it comes from somewhere else. But we can at least give you a hand.
Yeah,
I
and I
think
think just a sneak peek. Next episode, we're doing a tree takedown. Is that right?
Yeah, we need to take down that tree.
We're gonna do some live action tree takedown, and we'll just share some silly stories of family and mistakes we've made and what we've learned from them.
Have you ever made a mistake?
Listen,
I'm still
I think
10 for 10.
you're good.
I'm pretty good.
I think the
Perfect?
best thing in life that you can do is make mistakes.
That's the only thing I do. So, doing pretty well, I guess.
What if there's someone out there who's like, well, I mean, I beg to differ. I've been doing everything perfect so far, and I'm doing pretty well. It's impossible, right? So you just have to embrace your mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think making mistakes is good. I'd be happy to talk about making mistakes. Also,
I've
we
never
have.
been
Do you think
divorced.
we'll make a mistake while we're cutting down the tree? Do
Listen,
you think we'll hit
Oh,
some
I
power
hope
lines?
not. With the last tree that I took down, like the real,
it almost took out your whole house.
I will post a link to the video in the description. There's a tree next to my house, a big, probably like 60-foot pine, and it was leaning slightly towards the house. So I cut it on the other side, and I did have the foresight to tie a big rope to it and attach it to the back of the tractor so that if we needed some extra force going the other way, but yeah, it almost didn't turn out well. At least for my deck, it didn't come super close to hitting the house, but it definitely came close to hitting the deck.
And the one that we have to take down out back is over a power line, so we have to make sure that branch.
We'll connect it to your little tractor.
My little,
Well,
my
who's
lawnmower?
tractor.
Your
it's a
lawnmower?
Who's gonna scoot out onto? Who's
What
gonna
are
scoot
you
out
doing?
onto the edge of that branch and just like slowly take off?
I'll
a
be
little
up
bit,
there.
you know?
I'll be up there.
I have a
I've
10
done tree take.
a
Whoever's
10-foot
got
pole
insurance, because I don't. So it's
I've
not
got
going to be
insurance,
me.
but not for that. It's gonna fall on your house insurance if something goes wrong,
Listen, I got house insurance. I
Ask
just don't
Mark
have health
about that.
insurance.
right, Mark?
Heck yeah.
You're
No, that
the
was
one
that was
you're the
cash
one
money.
most
He's
experienced.
That
He's
wasn't-
the one that's
no,
got
no,
cash
that-
money from
no,
an
I-
accident.
no, not from house insurance. That was from business insurance.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought that was homeowners.
No, the
insurance.
homeowners they didn't do anything.
But you have the
If-
most experience falling multiple stories.
That's
so
true.
I think that you should do
Tyler was there
I
with
was
me.
there with him.
He
We
just
fell together.
He just
I'm just a cat.
We're
I
up
didn't
there
know
together.
You were there?
Yeah, Tyler's
hold
next
on.
to me.
We have to talk about. We have to do the story now.
Okay.
Now they're gonna wonder what we're doing.
All right, so Tyler and I were working a job where we were
This
removing.
is probably 5 years ago at this point.
This was 2018. Yeah,
5 years ago.
2019. It was 2019. It was October 2019.
4.5 years ago.
So
yeah,
so we were removing the trim in between like the stucco siding.
fascia. We were removing fascia boards and replacing it with a Borel board, which is like a steel,
Like a concrete kind of.
It's a byproduct of when they make steel and they compress it and they make it into like a 1x8.
A
that
bug
you would
can't eat
use.
it. That's the.
It
that's
doesn't
the
rot.
purpose. Yeah.
It doesn't rot. It doesn't decay over time. It is weatherproof.
Got it.
So we're taking out this stuff and the.
We're taking out the wood.
Yes, we're taking out the
putting
wood and
in-
putting on this new stuff.
Yeah.
So we were pulling the wood off. We were on scaffolding. We were on a ladder that was on scaffolding. Both of us are on
Big
ladders.
no-no, by the way.
And
no-no.
see, and I didn't know any of this.
We did not know this at the time, but
And-
that's a major OSHA violation.
And what should have happened is that scaffolding should have been secured
To
on
the
both
building.
sides to the building.
Yep.
Um,
And we should not have been on ladders on
we
top
should
of
never
the
have been on
scaffolding.
ladders. Yes, and so, which was a
We were young
some
and
of the
dumb.
reason. Well, it wasn't our idea.
were ignorant.
He was the person we worked for wasn't young.
No.
But it was just a mistake. It shit happens. But we were on these ladders and we were both prying this piece off. And because we were on ladders on scaffolding, prying, going like this, the weight is pushing into the scaffolding and it's tipped the scaffolding back. Tyler,
All I remember is all of a sudden my hands are sliding down the brick, and I'm like,
And he started running down the ladder.
Shit. And I look down, and the scaffolding is leaned against, way against the
tree,
house.
yeah.
And I look at Mark, and I'm like, in a moment, a decision has to be made. Do I sacrifice myself or do I sacrifice somebody else? So my immediate reaction was kick the ladder out underneath me so I don't land on the damn thing, and I'll just go straight down and hit the ground. So that's what I did.
and it helps
Meanwhile-
to weigh 150 pounds falling.
I think
and
at that time,
you had started
at that
running.
time, I think I was 150.
you had started shimmying down the ladder quick.
I did not shimmy.
You
I
didn't
did
get
not
down the
shimmy.
ladder at
I
all?
kicked it away from me. I
Oh,
did
that's
not
what
want to
you
get stuck underneath the ladder because my father had his foot pulled off in an accident on a ladder. And I did not want that to happen. So my mind immediately went to push the ladder away from me. This
and
ladder
basically jump.
landed on his nose and broke his nose.
Yeah, well, I landed like this on the ground.
So yeah, I went straight down, and Mark was over top of an air conditioning unit. So he jumped sideways, and my ladder came back and smacked him, and he
Broke my
landed on
nose.
his arm. So he broke his arm and his nose, while I went down like a cat and maybe slightly sprained my ankle.
I think you were like, the next day my back hurt really
Yeah,
bad for like
yeah.
a week or something. Yeah,
Meanwhile,
And I
Mark was
drove
down
him-
for 2 years.
I took him to the hospital.
yeah, you took me to an ER, and
I
they
drove him.
and
They
like
were
I hadn't looked. I just knew my nose was bleeding.
Yeah.
and I had my hand on like
Arm
my jacket. I knew
tight.
something. Like I'd landed like one-handed from about 20 feet up. I knew something was bad. I took it out of my jacket, and they go, "Oh, you gotta go to the ER."
Yeah, they were like, we can't
Like, we
service
can't
you
help you
here.
there.
Go
So-
to the ER right now.
Went there, and yeah. Long story short, couple surgeries. I had plates.
Do you still have
plate
the,
screws? No, everything's gone.
the
Everything's
scars
gone. I
gone?
still have the scars. Yeah, there's the scars there.
So Mark
Zoom in, Ben.
Mark went away with that with multiple broken bones, and I walked away literally.
Yeah. So I basically wasn't able to work for
My-
I don't know 7 months.
So
or something
Mark
like that.
got a payout, and I did. I did
The
not.
frustrating part for me is I've known this story, and I knew you when this happened. I never knew that you were
I was
in
right
this
there.
story.
We were on the same scaffolding.
I've told you that
Yeah.
he was next to me. I know I have.
Yeah.
That is 100% false.
That I have told you.
There is no, because I was
You've
like,
probably been drunk every time I told you that story.
there's a
See,
chance.
see, the
There's a good
real
chance,
thing
yeah.
here is I'm just built different.
Just feel different.
It's true. You're much more limber than I am. That's for sure.
And quick-witted.
Although
I mean-
the surgeon, he was like, if you weren't so freaking strong, your whole entire shoulder and collarbone everything would have shattered, but instead only your wrist took the brunt.
Yeah,
It was
that's
like,
great. I mean, you got a lot of mass there to help.
That's what I'm sitting there thinking. Like, you are too damn big to get hurt falling down. I feel like you
was
would just
pretty high up.
land in a push-up position.
It was only 22 feet up.
So technically, the scaffolding was 10 feet up, and then we were probably up about
Another
10 feet, 8 to 10 feet up on ladders above that, which is a big no-no. You should.
It was
use ladders
3
on top
levels of scaffolding, so that's 15 feet.
Listen, when I
Yeah.
go and I
Plus
work freelance gigs, they always try to get me up on these 15, 20-foot ladders, and I refuse to get up there.
Now, you know what? I will say I did face my fears. I stained and recocked. I live in a log home. All the logs, and my garage side is like the garage and then the 2 levels of my house. So it's about 30 feet up, and I got up and I did all of them.
Wow.
It was.
So
it took me.
How fast did you move though?
Oh, not fast.
Because I'll tell you what, I used to scamper up ladders like it was nothing. I could walk on them 15 feet up in the air. Now I am so slow.
Oh, dude, when I go up there, I'm like, Jesus Christ, help me in this moment of peril. I have to get up here because my house will fall apart if I don't take this out, and I don't have $15,000 to pay somebody to do this, so I'm getting here doing it.
Oh my gosh! Well, we've lost 2 lights now.
Yes,
so we officially are going to wrap up episode 6.
Thank you, guys.
Somebody's literally turning the lights out on us.
Literally
You don't got to go home, but you get to get the heck up
out. You probably can't
out of
even
here.
see us now anymore on camera, but we thank you for being here. Appreciate you listening. Again, if you have any questions about homesteading, gardening, flowers especially, feel free to leave them in the comments